and I'm the attorney for Sharon Barnes Sutton.
What are you making the indictment, Mr. Williams?
Well, first of all, it's just what you described. It's an indictment. It's an allegation. It's an assertion by the government of conduct they believe that Ms. Sutton has been engaged in, and it's just an allegation. We deny that, as you will see and know already. Ms. Sutton has been a long-standing commissioner, has an unblemished record, and has worked hard for DeKalb County.
They have tapes.
Well, they allege to have tapes, although I will say that the parts of tapes that they quoted in the indictment, as anyone can imagine, are like the previews of the movie, the best pieces of the movie. In fact, sometimes, I'm sure you all know, you feel like you've watched the entire movie just from the clips. That's not the whole tape, and we all know that.
What has Barnes Sutton said to you based on reading this indictment?
Well, I can't go into what Ms. Sutton has said to me because that would be violating attorney-client privilege to tell you what she said to me. But I will tell you this. It's my understanding, expectation that we will prove that she is innocent of these charges and that we'll prove it.
They apparently have someone who is prepared to say, I handed her $500 in her home.
And people are prepared to say and do a lot of things. That remains to be seen whether a jury believes that to be the case or not. So, I mean, when you have somebody that the government would call a cooperator, as some people would call a snitch, I'm not quibbling about those terms. I'm just saying that because someone says something about you doesn't make it true.
What is the person who recorded those recordings? Is that Morris Williams?
I don't know for sure who it is because I have not received any discovery in the case, but I will leave that to the future to uncover.
Did Ms. Sutton get a target letter at some point, and was she offered a plea agreement already?
I don't know anything about the son, and I don't represent him and can't speak to his case. With respect to this particular case of Ms. Sutton, I think you asked, had she received a plea agreement?
A target letter at some point in the past? Did they come and send her a letter saying we're after you?
Not that I'm aware of, because I'm not the first attorney involved in this case. I will tell you, though, there was a subpoena sent to Ms. Sutton.
When was that?
I think approximately maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. I don't know exactly off the top of my head the time frame.
And did she cooperate?
Well, first of all, oftentimes with the government, cooperation is a term of art. She did not respond to the subpoena because of constitutional reasons. In other words, you can't receive a subpoena asking you to incriminate yourself when you are a target of a federal investigation. It basically runs counter to the Constitution, which says you don't have to tell on yourself in any kind of way. And you may not even believe you've done anything, but of course, people will ask you for documents and records and suggest in emails and text messages and things of that nature, Twitter account, and suggest that you've done something. And that makes you a witness against yourself, which is in conflict with the Supreme Law, U.S. Constitution.
So, Mr. Williams, was it clear from the subpoena that Ms. Sutton was the target of an investigation at that point, and what was the subpoena seeking?
It was clear that she was at least one of the targets, and the subpoena was essentially seeking information from her that what amounted to basically her thoughts. So, for instance, text messages, things of that nature, not just text messages, email messages, and as we probably all know, when you send a text message, oftentimes it's off the top of your head, it's what you're thinking at the moment. There's no better way to get inside somebody's head than their text message or their private conversation. And that's, in a nutshell, what they were asking for, among other things.
Financial records?
The subpoena did ask her for financial records. Once again, though, I would say that that's intention, and it's not me saying this, it's the law. That's intention in conflict with the notion that you're innocent until proven guilty, and you don't have to self-incriminate yourself or even do anything that might tend to incriminate yourself. And I want to make that point because I want to make that point strongly, because one of the things I feel is that we're sliding into an area where, well, there's guilty people and innocent people. No, there are people who are provably guilty, and there are people who are not provably guilty. And that's what the courthouse is about, and it's not about guilt or innocence. Some would say none of us are innocent.
Why did it take the government 5 years to bring these charges?
Well, I haven't parsed it out, but I suspect some of it might have something to do with the statute of limitations. Typically, charges need to be brought within 5 years, and if you don't, they're irrevocably lost to time. And so oftentimes you see prosecutors scrambling at the last minute, bringing charges and hoping to pick up evidence along the way as the case proceeds. I don't know if that's what's going on in this situation, but it might be. I don't know.
But I mean, if the tapes were available 5 years ago, why did it take so long?
That strikes me as a very, very good question. I have my own thoughts about why it took so long, but I don't know why they took so long to bring the charges. When you ask me my own thoughts about it, I would say, well, obviously they didn't think at the time they received the tapes that was good enough. They didn't have enough information. They didn't have enough evidence. But then, of course, now it's like a game. The clock's running out. You've got a bit of evidence. Do you pull the trigger or not? Do you go or not?
Did you talk to your client at all about her experiences this morning? I know earlier you said you felt it was a little bit excessive for her to be arrested and not allowed to turn herself in. Do you know what she went through this morning?
Well, I will tell you, I talked to my client. Of course, I can't say what she said, but I will say this about that experience. I had been in contact with government lawyers at least 2 months ago about this case. Now, of course, the government lawyers didn't tell me, oh, we're going to charge her and arrest her or anything of that nature. But she's, as I mentioned in court, she's lived in DeKalb County for 32 years, approximately, lived at the same address for 10 years. She's not going anywhere. Half the county knows where she's at. The other half doesn't care. So the fact that you need to send 3 agents at 6 a.m. in the morning to arrest this woman, it strikes me that you quite easily could have just had her surrender. So why they made a show out of it, I don't know. I guess I'd ask the public and I asked you, are you entertained?
Will your client post bond today?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So she is completing the paperwork as we speak and will be released.
So that's $2,500.
Well, it's a $25,000 unsecured bond, which means that basically you pledge $25,000 if you violate the conditions, but you don't have to produce any money. It's actually it's a quite wonderful package, and it's the kind of package where, and when I say package, bail conditions that 95% of the defendants would love to have.
Mr. Williams, you talked a lot about the legal stuff here, but tell me how Ms. Sutton is actually feeling this hour.
Well, I will tell you that, because I don't think that's attorney-client privilege. I think she feels beset upon. For instance, we heard, you guys reported a couple days ago about these changes with respect to the ethics board composition in DeKalb County and how that was such a great thing. Well, there was no mention of the fact that Ms. Sutton took the composition of the ethics board issue all the way to the state of Georgia Supreme Court, won that case, and got the composition changed. So she's been a hero and an advocate for DeKalb County. Think what you will about Ms. Sutton, say what you will about Ms. Sutton, but Ms. Sutton has fought for DeKalb County, and when you fight for anything, you make some enemies. I fully expect that's part of the case, but there was no mention of that. So when you talk about what she's done for DeKalb County, I think you rightfully can't present her as this alleged felon, but not also recognize that she was a county commissioner who fought for DeKalb County, for the citizens of DeKalb County, and I would say has an unblemished record. She's never been charged with anything or convicted of anything. Yes.
I just want to ask, you mentioned the ethics case. Some people interpret that as her trying to weaken the ethics board because she has been under investigation by the ethics board, and that was her effort to avoid the types of scrutiny she now faces. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. You have to think that the Georgia State Supreme Court, that they're dumb, that they're idiots, and that they were duped by Sharon Sutton, and she basically was self-dealing. Of course, she had a personal interest and stake in it. I don't think that's necessarily a problematic position. Most things we get involved in, including like charitable things, is because they in some way touch us. There are thousands of things to be involved in, but you're oftentimes involved in things that touch upon you in your life. But the decision maker in this case was the Georgia State Supreme Court. So if you want to impugn Ms. Sutton, you've got to impugn the Georgia State Supreme Court, which sided with her. and she raised issues about the composition. They agreed that she was right, DeKalb County was wrong.
Why is this case being prosecuted in D.C. and not here?
And this is speculation on my part. I think the case is being prosecuted in D.C. because it was shopped around and nobody wanted it here in Georgia. So they went down to D.C. and I don't know if you can say this on television, it's easier to piss in somebody else's backyard than your own. So you go down to D.C., find some lawyers in the public integrity section, and that unit brings charges. Whereas we're standing in front of the building for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia. They didn't bring charges. Now, once again, I do understand, so I want to make this clear, that this is essentially a branch office of the Department of Justice. It's a subsidiary in a sense, or like a central bank and a branch office. But still, that point is relevant that charges weren't brought here. Charges weren't brought by the DeKalb County ADA. Weren't brought by the Northern District of Georgia. The public integrity section down in Washington, D.C. And we all saw the same thing in the courtroom. This is not their normal familiar stomping ground. But they're up here because what? Oh, DeKalb County is a cesspool. Oh, everybody in DeKalb County is a crook.
To follow up on her arrest from this morning, you were questioning how it was carried out, but prosecutors argued that recently she was in Michigan, she learned of the subpoenas, and she extended her stay. How do you react to that, or do you see that as a reason for the arrest?
No, and not for the way they handled the arrest. First of all, that was their characterization. I won't go into back and rehash the issue about our characterization, because even if you accept what they say is true, do any of you really think that, oh, well, now that's the smoking gun. Oh, she's going to flee. She's a risk of flight, maybe even a danger to the community. She's going to flee to some other location from DeKalb County, from the state of Georgia. It's flimsy. And I would argue to you that one of the reasons you know that she's no danger or risk of flight is because of the bail package she got, which proves and shows that the court thought, no, go home, lady, and deal with these charges, but go home.
You mentioned she's not employable right now. What are her medical complications?
Well, I don't want to get into her specific medical situation, just as I would not get into yours. But she's not employable because, and these are some issues she learned about well before this indictment. We learned about this indictment about 2 hours ago when it was unsealed, and we saw what the contents were. So it's not a situation where she's malingering or making something up. She's just not in a position to be employed. And I would say, and this is just a commentary, there are a lot of healthy, well-bodied people who can't get a job right now. So this notion that you can just walk out and get a job, well, some might argue with that.
Can you give us any further details about why she was in Michigan for an extended period of time?
I can't. I don't know. She may have been visiting family. I don't know. But we talk about an extended period of time, and I love the way people use language. I think it was a week. So we're going to report an extended period of time, a week, not 3 days.
But did she extend her stay because she learned of the subpoenas? That's what the prosecutors are alleging.
I would say, and I didn't speak to her about this, I would say no. We never responded to that subpoena because it violated the Constitution. So why extend your stay because of the Constitution? Why extend your stay to avoid subpoenas that you constitutionally are not obligated to respond to? And we wrote them a letter saying we're not going to respond to these subpoenas. So the short answer is absolutely not.
So was there more than one subpoena that she received? You only know about one.
I'm only aware of one. Once again, though, I caution and mention that I'm not the first lawyer. I mean, in this case, this investigation has been, we talk about it, maybe as much as 5 years. So I'm not the first lawyer involved with her. So I don't know, but I only know of one subpoena that we did not respond to and will not respond to.
What is the name of the contractor that got the Snap Finger Waste Management project?
I don't recall at this point. I don't know. I'm sure everybody in DeKalb County knows.
I can find out. Yeah. I just thought you would.
Yeah, I don't.
Mr. Williams, I'm not sure if anybody asked you this while the cameras were rolling, but is there someone who is going to say that in her home?
I don't know what the prosecution thinks it has and what somebody's going to say. I don't see how anybody could say that, but of course, I'd ask the prosecution if it gets to that point, well, guess what? Prove your case. Part of my job is to test the prosecution, to put them through their paces. I don't know them personally, never seen them before until today in court. I don't have any personal animosity towards anybody, but my job is to zealously represent my client, but also make sure the criminal justice system is fair, and to say, look, if you can prove your case, you'll get nothing but claps from me. But if you can't, I'm going to test you, and if you can't, well, you can't wear the championship ring if you don't win the Super Bowl. So my job is to test you and make sure you got the goods and not just bluffing.
Do you expect her son to face charges?
Once again, I'm loath to speak about someone I don't represent and somebody else's client. I will tell you this, though. I don't see why he should face any charges. I don't see why she's facing charges. Once again, in the allegation, it's talking about, I guess, a total of $1,000. It's not the amount. Don't get me wrong. It's not the amount, because the violation of the law is a violation of the law. But we all know the phrase penny ante. You fly up lawyers from D.C. and you do all this. You got the press out here. You're struggling. To me, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel of something to do. I don't know. Maybe to make your number. I don't know. But to make your numbers, I don't know. But really? And you got to go all the way to D.C. to get somebody to come to DeKalb County? Really? If it was so good, so juicy, and so ironclad, and so airtight, take it right behind us. Take it to the DA at DeKalb County. Take it a lot of places. Not down to D.C. to the public. You could barely say the name. Public integrity section. Come on. But you know, they do what they do. We'll do what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.